introduction. I have worked for the last 5 archbishops of Atlanta, and each one of them at one time or another has put me in my place. Let me tell you first what I am not. I don't have any credentials as a financial planner or advisor. You need to have somebody like that for yourself at a certain point in your life when you have to make decisions about how you're going to be use resources. Let me tell you what I am. Since 1991, I have been the priest in charge of the Priest Assistance Fund. Basically, that's a fund that we fund every year through a fee to the parish for each priest that's serving there. And the purpose of this fund is to help with bills that can't be funded in any other way. Bills that we don't have money to pay for in any other fashion. It might mean flying home to Ireland because of the death of a parent, or in these times to Africa or South America. It might be something to deal with health that we don't have insurance for, and on and on and on. Now, I want you to know that I believe that it's very important that a priest not stay in the same position for very long. So every year since 1995, I have offered to resign, and someday I believe I will be accepted, and what a surprising day that will be for me. Since 1993, I believe, I've been chairman of the Priest Retirement Committee. Anybody here know Monsignor Arnold Kiernan? Have you heard of him? Well, I was the chairman and he was the vice chairman, and every year when it was time for the election of officers, Monsignor Kiernan would nominate me to be chairman and then move that the nominations be closed and that I be elected by acclamation. Same thing's going to happen there. Some year I'm going to offer my resignation, which I have done every year, and it's going to be accepted. I'm on the board of directors at Georgia United Credit Union, which is just down the street here. Anybody use that facility? When Archbishop Gregory came to Atlanta, he went around the Catholic Center and was talking to people about who they were and what they did. And he stopped in the tribunal, which is my other job. I'm an ecclesiastical lawyer, a canon lawyer. And I told him I was on the board of the directors at the Catholic Credit Union at the time, which is later merged. And he said, well, what good does that do me? Very practical man, huh? And so I told him, one Saturday, Archbishop, you're going to have an ordination. You're going to ordain 4 or 5 different men. It's a wonderful day that you're going to be having. Everybody's going to be happy. And then on Monday morning, 2 or 3 of those men are going to call you and say, Archbishop, I need a car and a credit card. What are you going to do about it? And I told him, then you call me, and I do something about it. I have been involved with the priests of the diocese in terms of their financial lives from basically the beginning of those lives. Father Michael, I don't know if you can be heard. Yeah, you've got a mic. Did you go to the new priest workshop?
I did.
What did you hear in terms of financial things?
I heard a whole lot of stuff that I didn't need to hear, but I heard some things that I did. And one of those things was what Monsignor Churchwell provided, which was information about financing and retirement. And for a man who has spent very little time in the world dealing with his own finances, it was incredibly helpful.
You know, I would tell them, in fact, I do tell them at the New Priest Workshop, it's my practice to go to the ordination, get the priest's first blessing after Mass, shake his hand, and ask him if he's thought about retirement. It usually gets a response, huh? Now, I think the purpose of me being here today is simply to provide a context for thinking about money and the uses of money. I told you that I worked in the tribunal. You know what the tribunal does? The annulment of marriage. I tell people I don't know why marriages work, but I can certainly tell you why they fail. And one of the reasons why marriages fail is because a husband and a wife have radically different ideas about the philosophy and the use of money. Now, why those things become problems very often has to do with another fact, and that is, without giving a lot of thought to the idea, we can sometimes assume that a person who uses money differently than we do has a moral problem. You hear what I'm saying? Stop and think about it for a minute. I didn't learn how to use money from my parents. I learned how to use money from my grandparents. And they lived through the Depression. I think that the priests that I have dealt with, the young guys, the middle-aged guys, now that I'm dealing with the 165 and older, the older men, all of them have slightly different philosophies of money. And there are times when I find it very hard to deal with some attitudes toward money. Money is a thing to be used, but all too often, as St. Paul would have us to contemplate and think about, the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money, but the love of money. Twice a year, I will give a homily at Sacred Heart. They're used to it. I've been there since 1977 in one fashion or another. Again, I don't think priests should stay in one place a long time. But I will talk about something like this. If you rely for your sense of security on something that you can lose or that can be taken away from you, it probably will be lost or taken away. So I think what Father Michael was saying in the prayer at the beginning, and he can correct me if I'm wrong about what he was saying, is that when we are able to give something up, what we're doing is taking away the power of that thing over us. All of a sudden, it's not something that controls us, it's something that we control. So I won't even try to tell you about the different kinds of philosophy of the use of money, but I will tell you that it's important if you're in a marriage, if you're young, if you're new at this, to understand what each other thinks about money and the use of money. It also applies if you're older, if you're getting ready for retirement, or anything in between, because you have to be able to communicate about that. Just last week, I was at Holy Trinity High School for the credit union. We have a scholarship program that's funded by the credit union in honor of Archbishop Donahue. And so every year I would be going to the different Catholic schools to present the big check, you know, the really huge check. We take a picture. But actually it was a clever way for me to get into the school, get into the presence of the principal, and ask him, what are you teaching your kids about the use of money? And you know, for many years, I was hearing basically nothing at all. But in the last few years, I've been hearing, well, the state of Georgia has changed its curriculum. We're now doing things about teaching kids in high school concerning the use of money. Anybody in here homeschool? Does anybody have a component to your homeschooling where you teach your kids about the use of money? Somebody can stand up and yell and tell us about it.
Well, mine just came in the mail like last week. Mine just came in the mail last week, so we'll be actually starting it, but it's by Dave Ramsey. Mm-hmm. So it's a curriculum for homeschooling, teaching high schoolers how to earn money, how to save it, and how to tithe with it. And so making sure that we tithe first. And so teaching our younger ones early on that to give to God first, so that when they become teens, when they become in college and adults, that it's a natural progression for them, so starting them young. And then the curriculum also goes into how to survive college without tremendous debt. And so again, teaching them how not to use credit cards and how to pay as they go and everything. So we'll see. But we're getting started, so.
Dave Ramsey has been mentioned in several places in your literature. Anybody else have something different they want to add that does the homeschooling? Just then remember that there is a change going on. People are beginning to consider how we use money. What is the purpose of money? But all of us have a story, I'm pretty sure. And that story would be how we learned to use money, how we learned to do it either in our families or from someone that we admired a great deal, to the point that the way we use money now is usually done without a whole lot of thought. We don't think about it, we just do it. So the concept of stewardship in the use of money is a way for us to think about how we use money before we simply just do it. Now, if you want to look at the spiritual life, and I think everybody here probably wants to do that in some fashion, when you think about things and possessions, you are very countercultural to life in the United States. There is another homily that I give every year at Sacred Heart about how some of the great heresies of the early church are still alive and well. And one of them has the name consumerism. And basically, I see that as a form of idolatry. You simply create your own idols. You put them on a pole or whatever you're going to do with your idol. You worship them and find out that kind of worship in the long run is not a very good thing because that idol can't do a thing for you. So I'd like to think that I'm having an effect on the lives of the priests. In addition to the things that I told you that I have been doing, I was once on the personnel board for a period of, I think, about 4 years, until I said once too often, we can't make that man a pastor. He can't even manage his own money. So at a certain point, that just was not going to be part of the decision process anymore. And I did, however, come up with a solution that I think we still use, and that is give power to the finance committees. I don't know what goes on here in your parish. I really can't say anything about Father Durkin and how he uses money, or even Father Rivak, I don't know. But one thing I think that we need to do is to make the role of money something less than the world would have us see it. It's not going to give you happiness. It's not going to take you to a place that's better than the place you have. It's not going to reward you in very many ways at all, except in the very short run. Now, if we look at the lives that we have, and if we see this concept of stewardship again, basically what it's going to mean to us is that every day we're going to consider, as Father mentioned it in that prayer for stewardship, we're going to consider ourselves as part of God's creation. We are not the creators, we are the created. The things around us that we have the use of. We didn't necessarily make those things. God is the author of all creation. And so how we use them is pretty much an exercise of our free will. We live in some ways in the wealthiest society the world has ever seen, which is one of the reasons why we can have talks like this. If you live in a very poor society, you're not going to be worried about retirement and getting your 403B in shape, or how much you're going to get for Social Security, because there isn't such a thing as a 403B, and there isn't Social Security. So today, if I can simply conclude, I know I had a short amount of time. Was it 29 minutes? What have I got left? 9 minutes? Oh, okay. If I can conclude, it is try to understand where you come from in your own personal experience about money. How have you learned to use it? How has that strengthened you? How has that weakened you? What could you do better than you do? If you're a couple, if you're a husband and wife with children, How do you teach your children? Not just in a pedagogical sense, what knowledge do you give them, but what do they see you do with money? Because that's one of the ways they're going to learn. The final thing then is one day we will all be called home to God. We will not be taking anything with us. So the concept of stewardship, I think, applies very well there too. How are we going to use God's creation? How are we going to use the things that we have been given? I will stop at this point, and since I have a few minutes left, simply ask if there are comments or questions. Surely Pat Shivers has something to say. Is she here? Yes?
Do you have a recommended program or something to work with kids? Do you have a recommendation?
No, I don't. I'm
Monsignor,
only...
Could you repeat that question?
Is there a program that I would recommend for teaching children in terms of the use of money? The closest I can get is that I don't know of any particular program. I do know that the credit union, that Georgia United Credit Union, has a plan for kids that are leaving high school and going into college, because one of the first things that will happen to kids when they get to college is that they will walk down the street where all these little booths are set up. We'll give you a t-shirt if you'll get our credit card, huh? So we provide a credit card for kids that are going into college that's called a secured credit card. And that is a very low credit limit. And it teaches you in some ways how to use money because you can't spend more than that limit. But as to programs, I'm pretty sure that the Catholic schools are moving in that direction. We've heard about one program over here from Dave Ramsey. Now, Dave Ramsey's not Catholic, but that's not necessarily important. He is a religious man, and I don't know of anything that I would question about the bases of what he teaches concerning the use of money. You can read in the Old Testament, even in the New Testament, find lots of references to that. But if you find something like that, share it, okay? Anything else? Okay, well, thank you. Oh.
For those of us that have younger children than high school, what do you recommend to tell them since they're little, like, about 7 or 8 years old, to manage their little savings or allowances if they do get any type of allowances later on? What do you recommend for younger children?
I'll describe it from the point of view of the biggest problem that I see with kids and money. Kids don't necessarily understand the consequences of their money decisions. They want something, they get something. They want it now. The world is going to end unless I get this and I get it now. So I think one thing, is this, by the way, I'm not a father or in that kind of a sense, but is this what you all hear? Yes. Does it work for grandkids too? So I think what I would suggest would be to try to put those consequences back into the equation, to let people know, okay, you want money, this is what you have to do to get it. You want to spend it on this, this is what you have to do to get it. Chores. Mm-hmm. That certainly works, doesn't it?
Chores.
Sowing and reaping, yeah.
And then reward the kids that way.
Chores.
We've got one quick question, one quick comment, and then we're going to wrap up. Yeah.
To kind of go along with what you're saying, one of the easiest things is you can do like 3 jars and you can label them. This is because it's very tangible for young kids. And you label 1 spend, 1 savings, and 1 gift to God. And then when they get money, they split it up and they put it in the jars and they can see it. And then each Sunday when they come to Mass, they can empty their give to God jar, bring that to put in the collection basket. But it's very tangible. They can see the jars, they can see what they have to spend. They can see what they have to save, and you can explain to them, what you're saving for. But first and foremost, to give to God first. And so that's something that we're starting. And then I was talking with a friend recently, and she said the same thing for as your kids get their first jobs, whether they're 16 or not, making sure they're tithing what they're earning, even though they're saving for college, making sure they're tithing with what they're earning on their jobs too. Because once that becomes a habit, it'll be more natural and will stay with them throughout their lives.
He wants me to stop, but I'm going to say one more thing. And that is, I would just say to parents, if you have kids, let them see you write the check that you put in the envelope or the money that you put into the envelope. And at church, let them put the envelope in the collection. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.